Hello and welcome to the Cow Corner Dugout. We just finished a semi-final match of the T20 World Cup, and if you thought this semi-final would follow some kind of a script, well, clearly New Zealand didn't get the memo. South Africa started as the favorites, but New Zealand, wow, they've turned this chase into a demolition. 13 overs, was it? 13 overs, target erased, pressure evaporated in a World Cup semi-final. The Black Caps didn't just win tonight, they made a mockery of the equation and reminded everyone why the knockout phases of cricket are their favorite playground. Hello, Hindusan. Hello, Karthik. Welcome to the Cow Corner Dugout. Thoughts?
Thank you. Thank you. And here we are 0-4, and Star Sports should make this the new Mocha Mocha. I think only the
Well, we,
ICC
we don't
top
we
one.
don't want we don't want any of those nonsense, please. We are
Please.
we are peaceful winning matches.
There are four games, and I was just remarking today that South Africa in the 2011 World Cup in the subcontinent, they played very well, and they were first in the group. New Zealand were fourth in that group, and yeah, South Africa still managed to find a way to lose to New Zealand. And I was fearing that it might happen today because South Africa did well in the group stages, and yeah, New Zealand has managed to come in and beat the hell out of South Africa. How do you do? How do you even explain that 12.5 overs they've gone and chased that total of 170? Someone says Finn Allen South Africa ko cupcake dila diya. So
Yeah,
I
I think
think
it's a fitting. I think it's fitting. We'll get some fitting memes today and going forward because I think the cringe advertising for this knockout phase has been a little well, it has been cringe. But coming back to the game, I mean, let's. It
I have
wasn't
a
Finn
small
Allen going
I have
first,
a
right?
small Dunzo order to
All
take.
right,
I'm going to be off
great.
air for a minute. Yeah.
All right. But in Dusan, it wasn't Finn Allen who went first, right? It was Seifert who got the early start. But I mean, 33 balls for 100. I mean, it didn't. You didn't know where it came from. After a point, he was hitting sixes for pleasure, right?
Yeah. I mean, so the first over was really. I mean, to be honest, I feared Jansen with bat and with ball. So even Ricky Ponting predicted he will be a game changer. The matchup between Allen and Jansen will decide that who wins this whole dynamics. And
Mhm.
the first over was negotiated well, and then Rabada came and Seifert gave a catch, and Quinton de Kock thankfully made a wrong call and he missed it. So that was like really a surprising element. And then all of a sudden they looked, I think from the third or fourth over, they looked very comfortable. Perhaps the first thing that I would believe the South Africa conceded too soon. They would have done something different in power play. They would have done something testing New Zealand. Uh, Everyone knows that Finn Allen doesn't like spin in the power play. Thankfully, South Africa forgot that, so it's good for us that we won the match. But there was some chase. You
Yeah,
never
because
expected the game.
in knockout matches, you expect nerves, right? South Africa were nervy throughout their batting. Aiden Markram set up. I mean, he's the guy. He's the informed batter in this tournament, right? And he finally he was 18 of 20 balls, which was a painfully slow innings from his perspective. But also as a captain, he didn't set intent, right? I mean, I was saying you do expect nerves, but I think South
Hmm.
Africa brought in the nerves, whereas New Zealand didn't. It seemed like that because New Zealand always seemed like they were in control of the game, even at even in
Yeah,
the opening
yeah.
partnership, first 2 3 overs they got 25. South Africa got away with about 25 odd. New Zealand were never out of the game. The moment it looked like Stubbs and Jansen were looking threatening, could maybe take it to 180, 190 maybe in the last 2 3 overs. Again, they pulled it back. So they were always in control of the game. And finally, 170 was not a big enough score at Eden Gardens, right? It was never going to be enough.
Because I was thinking the ball is stopping and gripping a bit when South Africa was batting. So I never underestimated this will be like below Pasco. For me, it was like Pasco, and I was a bit nervous when they got 169 at this one. So it's like very. It seems like, because if you listen to the commentary, especially when McConkey came to ball, Harsha Bokle nicely mentioned McConkey is the matchup for Quinton de Kock, and
Yeah.
Markram gave that matchup to McConkey. So that would have been a perfect, maybe, if in a cricketing sense, if I am Markram, I would have tried my level best to negotiate with McConkey in that over, because that we know that, he if they bring an off spinner targeting your prime batter, so that means you would have done something at that time. Perhaps there's a lapse, or maybe like in a modern day game, you can say like, okay, how long I'm going to shield for you. You go and do your thing. So I don't know what was the thought process behind it, but I heard it very clearly that Harsha Bokle was saying that McConkey is coming for the matchup, and Markram gave him the matchup. So that was the first thing which I thought. And ever since, every South African batter who walked in from Markram's time, and Markram, they brilliantly set up for Markram's wicket, and it was Ravindra's. It's a 50-50 chance. Like, he dived and he missed the chance. So they came with a perfect and a precise bowling plan for every batter of South Africa. So that's what I really love about being a Black Caps fan. They always find a way. They dig through the data. They always plan for it, and they come and execute it perfectly. Today they were clumsy in the fielding. They missed two catches, and it's that kind of day. But they had something going for them. Whether Markram gave a catch again, then Miller gave a catch again. So this is something like, I would say, um, it was like the Rob Walter says, the stars were aligned for us today. Maybe I don't know. I don't have any other words to put this.
Karthik, you're on mute. You're muted.
More than saying the stars aligned, I think one is, of course, the fact that New Zealand, we've been able to employ the right kind of bowling attack. And that was, in fact, a comment coming from one of our group members called Shashi, where I think Shashi had mentioned that they are the right bowlers. Of course, it did help that, the toss went New Zealand's way and they wanted to bowl first. Just imagine the kind of bowling that they had. I remember seeing the spinners, which is I think Rachin Ravindra and Mitchell Santner
Mhm.
together went for 54 runs, taking 2 wickets in their 8 overs, which is gold, which is less than seven and over. And then you have your opening bowler who
Cool.
just came all the way from a paternity leave, and he came and I think bowled 4 overs, 2 for 34. Matt Henry.
And including the 18th over, he went for plenty. He
Yeah,
went for
yeah,
some.
yeah. He was really good. He was really good.
So he
So
was
he didn't
top.
give he didn't give away.
I think Jimmy Neesham with pace on the ball was the one that was getting hit. If you're bowling 125, 130 pace on, you're getting hit. But if you have the ability to bowl slower ones, cutters, and bowl 145 plus like a Lockie Ferguson, there's a lot more skill involved. Because I remember at a time I was looking at the bowling figures of Jimmy Neesham, 3 overs for 40 odd. And then I saw the bowling figures for Lockie Ferguson, 3.3, no maiden for 17 runs. So I think that way it was done very well. Kiwis had the right bowlers at the right time. And yeah, they deserve whatever they've got today.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about like how they come as a group, because I think it's a masterstroke to drop Ish Sodhi and to bring Nisham back, because I mean, Nisham would add a lot of depth in the batting. So these are the signals you give it to your opponent, saying like, we have been playing horses for the courses. So that means like we are better, more prepared, and it's I would say like perfect planning and perfect execution, and it's just really like, and some bad pace of play by South Africa. They never wanted to come back into the game, and they were always like, by losing 2 wickets or 3 wickets in the beginning, it reminded me that Indian game. They were far behind, but they actually did a good catch up in the end. So what New Zealand did well is they never let South Africa get away from it. They're always putting lids after lids after lids. So that's what I would say.
Karthik, I'll put the question back to you. It was, I mean, obviously a knockout situation for both these teams is has been in the past a harrowing experience, the semi-final stages of a World Cup. Um, Given that, were New Zealand just mentally better prepared? Because the question I asked to Hindustan earlier was, um, Markram, for all his form and all his intent and all his high scoring in this tournament so far, on the big day looked a pale version of himself, and he's captain. So did he set the wrong tone going into the game or upfront in the game?
I, I think one of the points that even Harsha Bhogle mentioned and that Indusan also mentioned was all South Africa had to do, because it's a thing that we've seen across the IPL. Also, we've seen it in international cricket, that whenever Quinton de Kock is on, you didn't get an off spinner. And once they got McConchy, Quinton de Kock, tried to go very aggressive and then got out. So I think if South Africa had just seen that face off and McConchy just bowled that one over where he got 2 wickets. So I think these are things where I think if Markram had played out that particular over, and even Markram looked a little tentative, as much as there were a few imperious boundaries in his innings. Aiden Markram, if you remember, gave a catch fairly early on to
Yes.
Lockie Ferguson, and he was dropped, by Rachin
Yeah,
Ravindra.
Ravindra.
So I think Aiden Markram, I think there was that pressure. It was visible. As much as South Africa could come and say that, hey, we've forgotten the C word and this, that. Today, it actually reminded me of the 2007 Cricket World Cup, 50 over World Cup semi final versus Australia, where they had this all big talk saying, let me go in. I remember Jack Scarlett coming in, dancing down the wicket and was out bowled York by McGrath. Or was it by Sean Tate? I don't remember. But it was a Mad Max approach, and they were all out for 120, 130 odd. And after that, Australia won it in a canter. So I think this is where South Africa maybe lost the game in the beginning itself, where they decided to go in with a preset approach, which was, I think, if they had bordered on basic common sense, they would have survived. They have the batting to, take you. You saw that somebody like Marco Jansen at 7 comes in and, gets in those lusty hits to score at 200 strike rate. So on this kind of a wicket, you needed a 190 or a 200 minimum. And then whatever extra you get is where you are able to get your insurance to control the due margin. So that's the game. And I think South Africa fell woefully short of the script, trying to scramble their way around 170. So
But
it's fair to say that Aiden
12 for 2 is damaging, right? 12 for 2 is damaging in the sense that, you know, and then which later became 77 for 5, which meant that they spent most of their innings at a lot of stages rebuilding rather than being in a position to dictate the flow of the game, right? So the damage of the one McConkey over where 2 wickets fell back to back and two left-handers of guys who've been scoring fast enough to give Aiden Markram that cushion. Once that gone, then the middle order is exposed, right? The middle order hasn't really delivered or hasn't needed to deliver in many games, given how their bowling has been, right?
we had
So
a similar
Brevis,
situation versus India in
Miller,
Ahmedabad.
each
If
have
you
been tested
remember,
once.
they were 30 for
Yeah,
3
so
or
I mean,
30 for 3
yeah,
in the sixth over versus India.
Yeah.
And we had a very similar situation there where they lost early wickets, but they kept, going. They did, I think, take like 2 overs for consolidation, not as per the way the broadcaster puts the consolidation phase, but they did
Yeah.
consolidate for a couple of overs after that, and they just went hammer and tongs. And with
Well,
all
it
that,
helps
South
that you don't
Africa
lose a
reached
third wicket, right? In that
right.
situation, they were, I think, 20 odd for 3, and then they didn't lose their fourth wicket, right? Till another 15 overs. So I think they were
so
26 for
that's
3 against India.
I would equate that because even in that match, there were so many things spoken about the India's bowling plan because Surya Kumar Yadav's bowling changes were questioned by people. So this
Yeah.
is where that too because it's very small margin to be honest. The New Zealand lost against England in the last Super 8 game because they were gambling with Glenn Phillips because they thought like giving Matt Henry at that time would give pace for Will Jacks to work with. So likewise, these are the gambles that people just really need to do that. But where I felt even 169 we might now see like it's a below par score but it was not very due. I mean, the due condition as it used to be in the India versus South Africa as a West Indies because this is but I heard it from commentary. And then when your opponent is started staking on your faster bowlers, you would have like brought they actually brought Lungi Ngidi for the fourth over. I think the Jensen bowled 2 overs and then they brought. I would have gambled it with the Maharaj as well because Maharaj is a very smart bowler. So he would have not given the width. So we were speaking about Markram. Ferguson didn't give Markram any width to go for any because his majority of the scoring came from drives. So they never let him drive. So they were always taking it into his body. So something would happen because when you are going for these kind of things, you anticipate plans and then you just really make things for that plan. I would say that's where South Africa conceded the match because in the third, fourth over, you are just coming and your body language just drops. And these are the subtle signals that you give it to your opponent, which your opponent picks it up and say, like, oh, look, they are worried about it. So it's time for me to charge. Or like, that you get this. I personally believe that's where the game is largely lost because it's like there are games like your opponent actually plays really well, so you are getting outplayed, and there are games like you doesn't turn up well, or there are other games like you concede very easily. I think South Africa did the third one to me because yeah, New Zealand really played well, but like South Africa also didn't try much.
Okay,
I'm
so
strangely reminded of a little simile or this thing, but with Finn Allen, right? His impact is so much that he comes in and just kills the game. It happened if we were also speaking this earlier in that 2022 World Cup opener. He had a 42 of 16 balls, and that killed Australia. He took New Zealand to 200 for three, and Australia were all out for
Hmm.
111. So I think sometimes
Hmm.
when Finn Allen scores those boundaries and sixes, it just knocks the stuffing out of opponents. And I think he's come good. And I think that's what even Markram said in the post-match conference that once that innings is played, you just can't come back. And as Hindusan mentioned, if South Africa had tried to cut the flow of runs, maybe they would have got 2-3 more
no,
overs,
but
quiet
they couldn't
overs.
have. They couldn't have cut the flow of runs simply because Finn Allen wasn't the first guy with a detonator. Tim Seifert went first and got to
Hmm.
50 like when much earlier, right?
Right,
Whatever he
right.
Yeah,
did.
but like
So
what
he
I'm
got the
talking
first
about in the
three
power play.
overs.
Yeah,
Power play.
so
I mean, by the time the
so
sixth over
power.
came of Corbin Bosch, the game was over. I mean, it was 80 odd. It was
Yes,
60,
yes,
60 in five
because
overs and 80 plus in six. So the game was at 14 runs and over. You're not after that it was a run a ball, right? Um,
yeah. So I
so
mean, but
so let's
again,
go back.
like
Let's go back to where I would like to identify. Not the match ka mujrim, but what was the point in which New Zealand actually realized that they were going to win. Um, at halfway, what were your thoughts? Like genuinely, let's be honest here. Did you think it was under
well,
par, or do you think it was way under par?
I thought
Okay, I'll
this
go
is far.
first. Or okay,
Yeah,
par.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
no.
Karthik,
My
go ahead.
thought was that I remember the broadcaster, Abhinav Mukund or somebody else, I think Varun Aaron had put his hand in the grass and he said that
Mhm.
there is not much dew. But if the dew were to come on, it makes batting easy. But having seen New Zealand bat, because I think Seifert and Finn Allen had scored versus some of the associate nations when they played at Chennai. So I knew that if they go play this game where they are maybe 50 for no loss even in the power play, they are ahead in the game because South Africa would then need something monumental to get themselves back in the game. Because in a chase, even let's assume it's not a day-night game, most sides once they know that they're in a chase, they back themselves. And in this case, the conditions are going to get worse. It's India. It's early onset of summer. Dew would come at some point. If not,
Mhm.
8:30 p.m. It'll come at 9:15. So I don't think South Africa were armed with a good enough total. And I genuinely felt they on this wicket because we had just seen the India West Indies game in Kolkata, and there we saw that the game was a 195 200 kind of 196 was the target that was put, and that game went close. So I felt that you definitely need more than 185 or 190 to be competitive, and then both sides underperforming in certain departments or being defensive. That game went to the 20th over.
Yeah,
Here, I
because
think
see,
against. Hmm.
no, go ahead, go ahead. I mean, my point
So
was
I
that
felt that they were 20-25 runs below par. They needed a
I,
215, 220 to go challenge.
I was actually looking at the recovery periods, right? In a sense, they were 12 for two, and then I think at 77 for five. The next 2, 3 overs after these 2 points, maybe as many as three, went for under 10 runs, if I'm not wrong. And that is 5, 6 overs, which in a knockout situation is what the winning margin was, right? At the end of it, they won by 7 overs, right?
Hmm,
So
hmm.
that, the fact that South Africa spent so much time rebuilding that they
Right.
actually forgot that, what are they building, right? So I feel that there were too many recovery phases for the South African batting, is what I felt.
Yeah, let's actually with the point that you made, right? They were only in that middle overs phase, there were only three big overs that they had where they scored 10 runs. But outside of that, the average was 6 runs. Like they scored 4 runs, 5 runs, 3 runs, 4 runs, and then 2 overs of seven and then five. And
Yeah.
yes, in a knockout, you probably cannot afford to have this kind of frequency distribution of runs where you just have like three big overs of 10 runs. But towards the end, they were able to catch up, like a 15 run over, a 22 run over of Nisham. So that way, I think they did miss the trick in terms of not being able to go consistently at the bowling like the way they did versus India in Ahmedabad. And also, maybe this is a knockout game, right? The pressure is much higher. Maybe the need to rebuild comes because you're always assessing what is that right total required in a knockout tournament versus, let's say, a group stage game where where you can afford to just go all guns blazing. So I think there is a knockout part that's probably so many years. It's a curse of that DNA. That so many years of performance in a knockout game basically comes hanging like an albatross over them. And it's just unfortunate that South Africa weren't able to give the impetus when they needed it.
Yeah, but like I agree with everything what you say, but I just wanted to add something. This might sound controversial to few people, but that's where the captaincy matters. So I have seen few presses where Tempa Bavuma speaking. I know that by and large, people just say like, he's not a T20 standard batter. Yeah, could be because of his strike rate and everything. But he once told, he said, you can't just, rub off this choker title out of your this thing. You have to work to get it. So he played a blinder of the innings and he became the first, I mean, uh, captain to win them an ICC World Cup tournament. Maybe they have a Champions Trophy which they won in 1998. But back then the Champions Trophy was not these very glamorous
Not the
ICC
ICC
tournament.
branded trophy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so likewise, like they have these moments and they just had those things. So perhaps like they needed somebody a cool head on these things. Say like okay, look guys, we only made 169. Let us give our best at this moment. Let us try everything. Or they would have like planned for my biggest question is they never came threatening to any of the New Zealand batters because that's why you have a planning space. You know who is your opponent, you have
I don't
data,
agree. I
you
mean,
analyze.
I don't agree that they didn't have a plan. I mean, I'm sure they brought a plan. It's a semi-final of a World Cup. South Africa
Right.
definitely
But
brought a
they were not
plan,
troubling New Zealand. That's my
but
problem. They were not troubling
Finn
New
Allen
Zealand.
and Seifert brought demolition permits, which you can't. You have those games. There are plenty of those games where it doesn't matter what your plans are if the batters just go ballistic and stay that way, right? You can't.
So, I mean,
Honestly,
just go back to the first.
Honestly, New Zealand would have lost this game if they were bowling second. South Africa would have done. I don't think New Zealand would have. They would have also struggled. I don't think they're. To me, they're a very average side that somehow manages to raise their game in a knockout tournament. Because even if you look at their games versus England, New Zealand exactly played the same way like way South Africa played in their game in Colombo. They're a very average side. But it's good for India that an average side like New Zealand comes in because South Africa was a far stronger side man to man. New Zealand in a knockout tournament, I think they had the right bowlers for this kind of pitch, when you're bowling first up. So that
And they have
way, I
the
think.
captain who called correctly also, right?
Hmm.
That
So that's
helps.
toss is unfortunately
Yeah.
uh, it is an important factor, and that's something you can't control. And
Yeah,
New
but
Zealand
like,
made use of the resources.
yeah, so they always that's one of the very New Zealand way of doing things. One I would say always like finding a way, no matter
Mhm.
how hard it is. But at the same time, using your resources to your maximum potential, and you just and always Harsha Bogla says New Zealand is where like all the forces come together, align, and go in one direction, which always happens in New Zealand. That's what the broadcasters are asking Finn Allen and Tim Seifert. Like, look, you were playing SA20, you were playing BBL, and all of a sudden, within 10 days, you come to India, you become the betting partners, and you go and you take down. So I mean, those are because everyone knows that Finn Allen hates spin in the power play. Even Afghanistan got him out in the very first match very early. It's Seifert who just took on the spin. So those are the things which I say, like, you would have gambled a bit, you would have tried something different. I don't know, but as long as I'm happy that they didn't try, because I don't want to be Kevin Peterson now here wearing the New Zealand jersey and saying, like, how to get Finn Allen out because he's one of the prime batters that
No,
New
no, I think
Zealand
that
has.
that
Absolutely.
point was taken. That's what he was saying, Nirav, earlier. Where I think the whole thing was, if you know that Finn Allen doesn't like spin being bowled at him early on, why couldn't you probably got a Keshav Maharaj, who's probably the only proper spinner in their squad? And the other point that even Shashi made on the group was, did you need Corbin Bosch today? Could you have a George Linde having an extra spin option versus on this kind of a surface? So did South Africa commit that mistake of not having the right side for this, irrespective of whether they batted first or chased? Was that another a flashpoint? Because the New Zealand had two good spinners who were able to bowl 8 overs at giving at going at less than 7 an over. South Africa didn't have that. I think they just had Keshav Maharaj as a proper spin bowling option. So did they commit that error? Do they need Corbin Bosch? Was one of my questions.
So, I mean, can I answer this question? So it's easy. I mean, I that point is highly understandable. But the New Zealand team in their common lineup, they have two good spinners, right? They have Satner, he's an all-rounder, and so. So after seeing the last match, where both teams score around 190, right? 180, 190, which is potentially a 200 match. Do you still believe that you have to have a Josh Linde or like a Corbin Bosch who can give you some decent overs in bowling and a superb batter? I mean, superb batter in the sense like a far better batter than Linde. So I just really I mean it's a very hard take for me to criticize that selection because just seeing what the Kolkata has been giving this whole tournament, it is very high scoring games most of the time. So with all these things playing back of your mind, and this is a match must win match, and then you go there, you would have always like played very very. I mean the best options you believe that you had. So that's my take on that because maybe I am putting myself in their shoes and doing that rather than sitting this detaching myself and like looking at this. So this
Right.
is sometimes
I
it
think a lot
happens
of
to me. So
Sure. A lot of things are said in retrospective, and that's where we're coming. And I think we are right now tottering like the South African team. We're on 168. We're trying to get to 200. Yesterday we had like a last time that we were on the live, we had 200 people tuning us live, and that was like well an hour into our conversation. So we're at 169. I'm hoping this is the 18th over, and we
But
suddenly are able
169
to
is
get
not
to
enough, as South Africa found out
169 is
today.
not enough. Exactly. South Africa found out. So I'm waiting to see if we are able to inch up. We've got one more number to get to 170. If we can
mm,
get to 200, that'll be fun. But now moving forward, now we've seen this game happen. Question to you, Nirav. You've been asking us all the questions. I'm going to put this question back to you. Now,
Okay.
as an Indian fan, who would you rather
Yeah.
face in the final? Assuming we're going to get there. But for all you
I
know,
don't
this
think we
could
have an
also be a
option.
repeat of.
I don't think
Now
we
we
have an
don't have an
option.
option.
Uh, we don't have an option. I mean, if we win the match against England, if we do, we have to play New Zealand. I don't think there's any way we are getting around that.
No, I,
But
I
yes,
having seen
I
them
would have,
play South Africa,
having seen, having. I mean, if you had asked me this question 4 hours ago, I would have said I'd rather play New Zealand.
same thing. So, where do you think this World Cup is going towards? Is this going to be a repeat of the Champions Trophy 2025, or is this going to be a 2019 World Cup final repeat?
Okay, so
no, we don't want
one
that to
good thing
happen
is
to be honest.
okay. So let's after that New Zealand demolition in the first semi-final, the spotlight and our spotlight should also shift to Wankhede, where India is playing England, and that is a rivalry which don't tell Star Sports, but dates back nearly 100 years, right? and a rivalry which rarely has disappointed. And like in the last two World Cup T20 tournaments, has decided the finalist, has decided the winner rather. So both have played the semi-finals the last two times. The winner of the game not only went on to the final but also lifted the trophy. Correct, if I'm not wrong. So that
Yeah,
is
yeah.
again happening tomorrow, and I would imagine. I mean, I think based on what's currently happening in the last few games, it is going to be a bit of win the toss and win the game, or set out to chase and win the game. But 220 odd in the first innings in a knockout, if we can, whichever team can bat first and make that, it's going to be impossible
Right.
in a
But
knockout.
again, it depends
Not
on
in
which
a.
surface they're playing. Somebody did tweet that they are playing the same surface as the India versus USA game. So if that's going to be slow, because I remember that game, Surya Kumar
But
Yadav
that's
said that
also
the power
almost a
was.
month ago. It's a month ago. It's about 7 degrees warmer. These things change the same pitch, right? Because there has been wear and tear on the field, so it should affect the pitch itself, right? If it was not, because
It
it's
should.
a
Huh.
pitch which is not being used is being trampled upon during another game.
It is. I'm just curious to see what plays out. Is because they did also mention that this is looking green. It's looking like the usual red soil with a lot of bounce. So if it's going to be a true surface, then we're looking at the usual Wankhede surface. Like if you remember the 2016 game, we had these 220, 230 being chased down. So
Yeah.
it's interesting to know and see what kind of pitch is going to come out tomorrow. But I'm just hoping now, having seen India in the last three T20I series has played England. It's beaten them 4-1. They played New Zealand. They, I think, won 2-1. And they played South Africa. They won 2-1. So I think India have that marginal advantage. They have played at home and they've been the better side. And only time they've really lost probably is, when I think one game that they lost to England was in a chase that India couldn't do. And this chase happened to be Ahmedabad some time back. I think that was the game that happened. But I think India has in 3-4 different areas or different types of wickets. India has proved to be the better side. So I'm on the positive fact that India should win. But yes, I'm putting that effort to go to Mumbai. In an hour's time, I'm going to be at the airport. My packs are ready, and I'm going to be on my way to Mumbai and then catching the game tomorrow, and hopefully from there to Ahmedabad on Sunday.
I mean, my take is that both teams are struggling with their top order batting. Both openers have been looking, well, not Sanju, but Ishan and Salt and Butler have been looking a little suspect. They're top 3, 4, except and that's forced them to bring Brook further up. Like he started the tournament at number 5, and for the last 2 games, he's come in at one drop. Because he's been only batter, top order, top 6 batter in form, and then there's Will Jacks who kind of delivers the knockout at the end. Um, so I think these two guys will be the ones who will make a difference from the England batting point of view. And I think we need to have very, very specific bowling plans and put matchups for once, put Jasprit Bumrah and these two guys.
Yeah, should be fun trying to see how England, especially when you know that England's opening combination is weak. I'm hoping that India goes with this two overs of Bumrah in the power play and then two at the end with not being used in the middle overs.
No,
So if you're able to
Jasprit
do
Bumrah
that,
has a fairly good record against everybody, but Arshdeep has a good record against both these openers. I think Josh
okay,
Butler and Phil Salt. He got. I mean, this was the same openers in the last World Cup, right? If I'm not wrong, T20
right,
24, and I think
24.
Arshdeep got both of them out. Well, I think if I'm not remember, Butler hit it straight to mid off, and Salt got LBW both through Arshdeep. If I could be wrong, but from memory of 2 years ago, that's what happened in the semi-finals last time.
I
So
was on a
Arshdeep's got at
train
least.
bandwidth this thing, so I don't remember that, but I remember the game was played at Guyana, right?
Yeah, yeah. It was 170 to chase and 101 all out or something.
England, I think, totally batted 100 balls. I think they were all out since 16.4
Yeah,
overs.
yeah.
It was an ode to how they only
To the
play a
100. Yeah.
100 ball contest, a 100 ball contest.
Yeah. So they had
So
a, but yeah, I mean I mean both the batters, sorry, the batters of both the teams are are unpredictable. No, except for Phil Jacks at the end, and in our case, Shivam Dubey at the end, nobody's been a bank in across 6 matches, 7 matches which they played. So I think both teams will struggle with their thing, and I think therefore the best bowling team should win. So looking for a good match from, of course, Jasprit Bumrah, but also from guys like Hardik, Varun, who've had a few dodgy overs here and there. So I think Indian, I and let depending on the pitch, maybe they should go with Kuldeep. He was the
Right.
he was the big wicket taker in that last game, and in the recent series. So I think they don't read
But
him
it's
very well.
interesting. Kuldeep's not got a game. So if Kuldeep comes in, who does he come in for? Does he come in for Varun Chakravarti?
I don't know, man.
Who does
Luckily I
Kuldeep
don't
come
have to
in
make
for?
the decision.
But
But
as
yes,
a
I'm
Mumbai
just
fan,
curious because
I can tell something like finger spinners doesn't do well in wanketing.
Yeah, they don't.
So maybe I've given you a hint. If there anything any team change to be made.
basically
No,
saying,
but
"Hey man, change Varun Chakravarti, get in Kuldeep," is what you're saying. But here's an interesting comment. This while we're speaking about Varun Chakravarti, we've had this comment come a day before the World Cup final, which was played in India, the 50 over World Cup, where Pat Cummins came and said, "We're going to keep the crowd silent." I didn't take it very seriously back then, but it did. After he got Kohli playing on, the crowd slowly, Ahmedabad crowd gradually became silent as the game went on. Now Sam Curran's come and said he's going to make the crowd silent. Now, what do you read of it? Do you think uh, this is something very similar to how the aura is of these cricketers? What did you read of the statement when you saw that news?
so how does the crowd go silent? By taking wickets, right? Um, Sam Curran's not a guy at back to take too many wickets. Um, he's a handy cricketer, but I wouldn't back him to run through a top order of the Indian batting lineup. So I mean, Pat Cummins had the has new ball skills to be able to back that up, and he had Hazelwood and Mitch Marsh with him. I don't think Sam Curran has that kind of ammunition behind him. Let's put it this way. Jofra Archer is quick, but not really effective. And England will struggle with their bowling. The bowling is unless and their star bowler this tournament has been Will Jacks, right? So that should tell you, and Adil Rashid to some extent.
There's Will Jackson. I think Adil Rashid's got 16 wickets.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think their standout bowlers have been their spinners, but that's probably also because Colombo had a higher degree of
They played a
turn
lot
than
in Sri Lanka, yes.
Yes. So now I think their composition will change because they're playing in India. So I don't think they're going to go with Will Jacks, Liam Dawson, Adil Rashid. I think Liam Dawson and Adil Rashid did play in the game at Wankhede versus Nepal. But I'll be curious to see how England are going to be naming their side and in terms of who is likely to be their first 11. Any
Right?
guesses on how you think the teams are going to go?
Well, I don't see India making a change unless it's Varun out and Kuldeep in, which is as much of a gamble. So if it goes right, it's great. If it goes wrong, you know, the management is questioned. So it really depends on what Gautam Gambhir's astrologer tells him tomorrow morning.
After the Chandragrahan?
Yeah.
But,
But
but I'm going to
I
go
have
with
reliable information that Gautam Gambhir does consult an astrologer.
he
Is he
does.
by
Okay.
any chance? Is he by any chance a Cancerian? Because Cancerians, I don't know because I am a Cancerian, but they predicted the Cancerians will have like higher mood swings. Lot of they might act a little bit crazy and everything with the lunar eclipse.
Bah, I didn't even see that thing coming. But in terms of the correlation between a Cancerian, Gautam Gambhir, and a Sri Lankan Kiwi fan who are trying to find out correlations here. But yeah, I think if I were to look at the 11, England, I'm thinking will go with Phil Salt, Joss Butler at the top. They're not wanting to change that. Brook at 3, Bethel maybe
I mean, their
5.
only
They leave
option
him.
really is Dawson in or out versus Jamie Overton, right? So there's
I think
no
both will play. Jamie Overton will play. Jamie Overton will play at 8. They will have Will Jacks, Jamie Overton, Liam Dawson, Jofra, and Adil Rashid for bowling, apart from Sam Curran. So these will be the stock six options. Uh, if they want an extra pacer, that's the question here, because I think
So you're
what
saying
England did,
Will Jacks
I
at
think
7,
Will
Sam
Jacks at
Curran at 6,
seven, Jamie Over,
Sam Curran at 6, Will
Sam Curran
Jacks
at
at
six.
7. So there's so effectively that's Dawson as a spinner, Will Jacks as a spinner, Adil Rashid as a spinner, Sam Curran as a spinner.
Yeah,
Right?
I think in Sri Lanka the only extra they had was, I think, instead of Jamie Overton they had Rehan Ahmed. Now
Correct.
when you are in India, I don't think you'll want two of the same skill, which is Adil Rashid and Rehan Ahmed versus India. So you're looking for variety, slow left arm orthodox and Liam Dawson, Adil Rashid
But they have
in the
two slow left arm orthodoxes in Dawson and Sam Curran.
I knew this was basically like a dig, because I'm like, where is the other slow left arm orthodox? But yeah,
I mean, he bowls his fastest one is 122 or 124, and he's most of the time bowling in the 90 kilometer, which is Akshar Patel speed. So you can't. I mean, he is that, right? He's a off cutter bowler
yeah,
more often than
predominantly
not.
that. I think those balls did
Very
help
smart.
when he was playing against Nepal. England did
Yeah.
close that game, but I'm also told that this is not the India USA pitch. This is the England versus West Indies pitch.
Okay.
They call it
Okay. So at least
surfacing
England
number
has.
seven.
Okay. So England has experience on the has experience in the
Yeah,
venue
it's
on the
their home
pitch.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah, England. In fact, the last 2 years, England has played more games at Wankhede than India has. So it's England's home game here.
Yeah, but it's also a
Yeah.
home game for the four MI boys, and hoping for a good
One
game for them.
XMI boy, four MI
Am I
boys, one
seeing am I
XMI
seeing two
boy.
MI fanboy? Am I seeing two MI fanboys here?
Yeah, you are
Yeah, I mean,
seeing.
I am. I mean,
You are
There's a
seeing, you
part
are
of me
seeing.
that is
So
wanting to come like Shah Rukh, huh? I said there is
see,
a
I
part of
mean,
me that is wanting to come like Shah Rukh Khan and Chak De and say, I don't see which teams you're from or which states you're from. I'm just trying to say that, hey, I only see one, and that's India. But nevertheless, that was just on a lighter note. But yes, as much as MI has played here and they know what the surface is, I think the surfaces are slightly different from what you would otherwise get for the IPL. With the IPL, you're guaranteed over 190, 200 with the impact player, which is very different from what you get in international cricket. So
yeah.
I'm assuming that
I mean,
whatever
that's
little home advantage. Hmm?
it's also largely because the international cricket is not played in the peak Mumbai summer. So the weather does play a factor in these things. Currently, I don't know what the temperature is like is in Mumbai, um, because there is going to be dew. I mean, there you can't get away from it. It's how much dew there is, right? And will that be a big enough factor in a so will, that's what it come down to.
Right. And yeah, I think if India bat first, I'm hoping that they go like the way that they did against Zimbabwe, which is their standard approach, saying if it's a 200 par wicket, let's aim for 20 more so that we have that insurance when somebody bowls the 18th, 19th over, where you don't get clobbered and then you're able to get back into the game. And India has, I think, pioneered that whole mode of trying to attack, while England's aggression started off with baseball or even with under Owen Morgan's team. The T20 team has looked fairly ordinary in the last 3 years, except for I think Harry Brook winning 3-0 in Sri Lanka just before the T20 World Cup. England had a pretty sorry T20I record in the last 1.5 years. So I'm just hoping that will help India win the bigger moments. So I'm expecting India don't make too many changes. It would probably be the same side that played the quarterfinal. But you say that okay, Varun Chakravarti is gone for 40 runs, a couple of games, so we might put him out. But I think he's a far bigger match winner. He's won you more games in this whole World Cup cycle. We should persist with Varun is what I feel.
I
Unfortunate that
agree.
somebody like misses out. So I'm going to go with
I mean,
Abhishek Sharma.
yeah, these are two guys who were rated ICC, top bowler and batter, and we are questioning both their positions. So it's quite unfair, actually. So they've earned their right to be in the team for the next two games, and to be in the playing 11 that wins the trophy on Sunday night.
Right. And by the way, we've
That's
hit
all.
184. We've hit 184. That's how much England made at Wankhede when they played Nepal, where they
Oh,
won by 4 runs. Can we stretch it to 200? Go tell your friends we're there. Subscribe to the Cow Corner Dugout, and go tell your friends that we need 10, 15 more people very quickly, so that we're also looking to score 200 and then go to bed tonight. But looks like we're going to be stuck on 185. Quick poll. Tomorrow's game, who is your choice for victory? We start with Nirav.
I'm going with India, obviously. Um,
Going with India,
more,
Hindustan.
Yeah, India's favorite team.
We forgot to ask this
but
question to
India is as
Hindustan.
much a favorite as South Africa were today. Let me put it this way:
Right, right,
they're an overwhelming favorite, but toss and nerves on the day will make a big difference.
right. I asked you one question. I'm going to put that question to Hindustan. Hindustan, as a Sri Lankan Kiwi fan, you're a Kiwi fan. You're out with the Black Caps T-shirt. Who would you like to face? Would you like to face India, or would you like to face England
You mean in the final?
in the final?
Obviously England. Obviously England.
Obviously.
For one
I
reason
can
alone,
hope. No, 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 no. Don't bring that to 2019 stuff because I have told in the
Don't
group
worry, we
also
don't have
before
we
you
don't
post
have
about it.
see, Ahmedabad will not do boundary count, okay? So we don't have boundary count in the rules. So you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
erase
yeah.
that.
Boundary. Yeah, so I wish I could erase that. See, no need to give trigger alert. So about that, but like I would say, like India is a champion team. So when compared to them, England has more kind of like holes which Black Caps can just go in or something like that. So negotiating India on a World Cup final and negotiating in England on a World Cup final, I would pick England because there is something to hope. But when India coming, it's really I mean you just can't say like okay we have a good chance. No. No.
Right. Yeah,
I'm
for
to
not
your
being
point,
modesty, I'm
Karthik,
being very honest here. I'm being very
no,
honest
I
here. I'm not
understand
trying
that.
to
I
be
understand.
modest or something.
to your
Yeah, yeah,
point,
no, I
Karthik,
get that
Ahmedabad will
feeling.
not give a boundary count, but it has given two super overs as we've seen in the last couple of weeks.
As
Um,
long as the super over ends, I'm okay with that. The boundary count which comes after the super over is the problem. Super over is not a problem. New Zealand has faced enough and more super overs. The problem is super overs also tied for New Zealand, and then they bring the boundary counts and everything. So hopefully, I mean, we just really like. I would say I badly want New Zealand to win it. So, like you all
You want to
want
pick
New
England.
Zealand
You
over
want,
South
yeah,
Africa, I
you
would
want
pick
England over
England
India.
over India because that
Right,
gives us some sort of leverage to fight. But when it comes to World Cup, whoever comes, you can't just sit back and worry. You need to try and give your best. So that's what it's all about.
right. So let's see. I'm going to now see if I can actually do a live tomorrow, an hour later in the game. And Nirav, if you're probably free, you can set the live up. I'll try and join from the stadium somewhere and see if we are able to actually go,
Wankhede
put up
has,
a.
if I'm remember right, they have Geo Wi-Fi. So if you get in early,
Dude,
uh,
there is no Wi-Fi. I recently had gone for the Zimbabwe West Indies game. There is no
okay,
internet signal that There's no public Wi-Fi that is there. It was there in the 2023 World Cup, but right now
I
there is just
was
no public
remembering as
Wi-Fi.
Geo had the Wi-Fi going, but what I also remember, you have to go early enough because it's like there are a number of users which can use it.
Ah, sluts.
So I think that was the issue because I
But
remember
yes,
being
we're
in the
nearing what 200. We're at 192. I will be going early slightly because my seat is actually deep mid wicket, and we have this habit at the Wankhede where me along with I'm also part of another group called the North Stand Gang, where all of them converge exactly at the center behind the bowler's wicket. And then we just stand there and we make sure all that noise is created, and we're going to make sure we go stand there, get our seats right behind the bowler's arm, and are there during the game. So I'd look to go a little early because Wankhede can get a little crowded, and yeah, I just have to smuggle my meta glasses inside. So the policeman has seen me a couple of times. He's caught me. So I'm trying to see if I can do that and just get inside, because it's a lot of fun trying to film with the Meta Glass, where you're able to get people's opinions and upload videos much quicker. So that's my plan. We're right now on 194. That's what Saeed Anwar scored in Chennai in 1997. The question is whether we will get to 200. We've been trying to just pull out here, and
I
we've
No, I'll
from
settle for
150.
195. That's the winning total which India has chased just a few days ago. I'll settle for that. And I'll settle for
yeah,
a
sure.
lot
So
less for England to set up tomorrow. I'd be happy to chase 165, 170 tomorrow as well.
I'm wishing you all the best for your what they call it as the second semi-final
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Karthik, you have just one job.
Yeah, just make India win.
Just one job.
So
And
Samal
to
Lena.
all the
just
190 odd people, 200 odd people who are there today on the show, thanks for your support on Twitter as well as YouTube. We look forward to doing this far more regularly, and of course, have more people on the show with respect to having a rich cricketing conversation. Thanks for all your support. It's till then, it's just going to be good night from the three of us: Nirav, Indusan, and me, Karthik. Any parting note, guys? Or are we good in bye bye good night mode?
I think we are. I'm good to go.
Jai Hind, Jai
So
Maharashtra.
Jai Hind, Jai Maharashtra. Okay. I will say that as in like 5 hours' time when I land in Maharashtra. For now, I just have to get to the Bangalore airport T1 and then board my flight.
All
I,
right. Safe
I, I
journey.
wish you all the best for your journey. Wish you all the best for your journey. All what I can
Thank
say
you.
as a New Zealand fan is like borrowing two lines of Taylor Swift just to close the remark. She always says in the blank space song, it'll go in, it'll make breathless, or it might end as a breathless or with a nasty scar. So we are going to get one of that next Sunday. That's all.
Right.
Okay, on that Taylor Swift note, I thought you were actually referring something from Ross Taylor, who's of course a very favorite Kiwi batter, but that's not the case here. So it's Taylor Swift. So we'll end up with 197 points, and that'll be the target. Also, we hope India scores and is able to score that and win and get to facing the Kiwis in Ahmedabad over Amras. Till then, good night.